Have you ever wondered how a simple shopping day can change your life forever? Get ready to meet Sarah, a single mother struggling to raise 4 children, and Mr. Johnson, a lonely 80-year-old man. Their paths cross in a busy supermarket in a small town, beginning an unexpected journey of compassion, generosity, and deep human connections. What happens when a stranger's kindness meets the courage of a determined mother? How can an act of kindness trigger a series of events that transform not just 2 lives, but an entire community? Discover how a chance encounter can become the beginning of a new family, proving that true wealth lies not in what we possess, but in the bonds we create. This touching story will make you laugh, cry, and above all, believe in the power of small acts of kindness. It will remind you that even in the most difficult moments, we have the power to make a difference in someone's life. Prepare your heart for an emotional roller coaster and a life lesson you'll never forget. After all, sometimes all we need to change the world is to be open to the possibilities that a simple chalots can bring. But first, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This is very important for the channel's growth and will ensure you're notified about new videos. And now that you've subscribed to the channel, I want to give you a very special tip. Have you ever thought about earning income from home in dollars? Access the link in the description and see how you can do this. Now, let's get to today's video. Imagine a small town called Peaceful Valley, where the rhythm of life is dictated by the coming and going of the seasons. The streets are tree-lined with colorful little houses and an air of tranquility that seems to embrace every resident. It's in this charming setting that our protagonist, Sarah, lives. Sarah is a 38-year-old woman, with brown hair always tied in a messy bun, tired green eyes, but still bright with hope. She's a single mother of 4 children and works as a nurse at the local hospital. Her day-to-day life is a constant battle to balance the family's needs with the limited resources at her disposal. On a particularly challenging Saturday afternoon, the sky threatened rain, and Sarah found herself forced to take all her children to the local market. Emily, the oldest at 12, a responsible preteen with freckles on her nose, the 8-year-old twins, Ethan and Ryan, 2 identical mischief makers with boundless energy, and little Sophie, just 4 years old, a ball of sweetness with golden curls. "Kids, please behave today," Sarah pleads as they enter the market. "Mom needs to focus on shopping." "But Mom, I want that colorful cereal," shouts Ryan, pointing to a shelf. "Me too," echoes Ethan. "Shoo, boys," Emily intervenes, holding her brother's hands. "Remember what Mom said about spending only what's necessary." The market is crowded, as always happens on weekends. The buzz of conversations, the clinking of carts, and the occasional sound of a child crying fill the environment. Sarah tries to keep the children close while comparing prices and doing mental calculations to ensure she can buy the essentials without bursting her tight budget. "Let's see," she mutters to herself, "if I get this cheaper brand of rice, maybe there'll be enough left for a package of cookies for the kids." It's at this moment that something unexpected happens. An elderly gentleman, frail in appearance but with a gentle look, approaches the group. He has well-combed white hair, wears a beige sweater over a checkered shirt, and leans slightly on a polished wooden cane. He introduces himself as Mr. Johnson, an 80-year-old widower who lives alone in the neighborhood. "Excuse me, young lady," he says with a warm smile, his wrinkles deepening around his eyes. "I couldn't help but notice your situation. Would you like some help?" Sarah, initially hesitant, looks at the gentleman with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. "Oh, that's very kind of you, Mr. Johnson, but I don't want to bother." "Bother?" he chuckles softly. "My dear, the greatest joy for an old man like me is to be useful. Please allow me." After a moment of reflection, Sarah ends up accepting the offer with a shy smile. "Well, if you insist. Thank you very much." Mr. Johnson bends down carefully, ignoring the slight creak in his knees, and picks up Sophie. The girl, usually shy with strangers, immediately becomes enchanted with the gentleman's soft white mustache. "Hello, little one," he says, making a funny face that makes Sophie burst into contagious laughter. "How about we help your mommy today?" As they walk through the aisles, Mr. Johnson entertains the twins with fascinating stories from his youth. "Did you know I was once an explorer?" he recounts, his eyes shining with memories. I traveled through the Amazon, navigating rivers and discovering plants that no one had ever seen before. Wow, exclaims Ethan, his eyes wide with admiration. Did you see jaguars? And giant snakes? Adds Ryan, almost jumping with excitement. Mr. Johnson laughs, delighted with the boy's enthusiasm. Oh yes, I saw all that and much more. But do you know what I found to be the most precious thing in all those adventures? The children, including Emily, who was now listening attentively, shake their heads, curious. The people I met along the way. The stories we shared, the smiles exchanged, the hands extended in difficult moments. That, my young friends, is worth more than any treasure. Sarah, who was listening to the conversation while comparing vegetable prices, feels a wave of gratitude and admiration for the gentleman. She realizes that, despite her own difficulties, she still has much to offer to others. As they walk, Mr. Johnson shares a bit more of his story. He tells how, after losing his wife 5 years ago, he faced deep depression. You know, Sarah, he says in a lower tone, so only she can hear, there were days when I saw no point in going on. But it was small acts of kindness, a smile from the baker, a chat with the mailman, a dinner invitation from neighbors, that brought me back to life. Sarah feels her eyes fill with tears. That's beautiful, Mr. Johnson. And look at you now, spreading that same kindness. He smiles, shrugging humbly. I learned that sometimes, the greatest gift we can give someone is our attention and our time. That's what I'm trying to do now. But the story doesn't end here, my dear listener. As they reach the checkout, Sarah notices that Mr. Johnson seems tired and a bit confused. He starts frantically searching for his wallet in his coat and pants pockets. Oh no, he mutters, panic growing in his voice. I think I left my wallet at home. What a scatterbrain I am. Don't worry, Mr. Johnson, says Sarah, gently touching his arm. It must be somewhere. But after a few minutes of fruitless searching, it's clear that the wallet really isn't there. I don't know how I'm going to pay for my groceries or get back home, he says, visibly distressed, his voice trembling slightly. At that moment, Sarah has an epiphany. She looks at her own groceries, at her children, and then back at Mr. Johnson. Without hesitation, she decides to pay for Mr. Johnson's groceries, using the money she had saved for months to buy herself a new pair of shoes. Mr. Johnson, she says with determination, you've helped us so much today. Please, let me return your kindness. I'll pay for your groceries. Mr. Johnson's eyes widen in surprise. Oh no, my dear. I couldn't accept that. You have your family to take care of, and you're part of it now, Sarah interrupts with a warm smile. Please let me do this. The children, observing the scene, are impressed by their mother's attitude. Emily, the oldest, whispers, Mom, but what about your new shoes? You were so excited. Sarah crouches down to be at eye level with her daughter and responds, sometimes, the best gift we can give ourselves is the opportunity to help someone. The shoes can wait, but this moment, this chance to return kindness, is precious. Mr. Johnson, with tears in his eyes, finally accepts Sarah's help. You have no idea how much this means to me, he says, his voice choked with emotion. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. After paying for the groceries, Sarah insists on accompanying Mr. Johnson to his home, ensuring he arrives safely. On the way, they talk about life, challenges, and the importance of staying open to human connections, regardless of age or circumstances. You know, Sarah, says Mr. Johnson as they walk slowly along the tree-lined sidewalk, when I left home today, I was feeling so lonely. I thought it would just be another solitary day at the market. I never imagined I would find a family. Sarah smiles, adjusting Sophie in her arms. It's funny how life works, isn't it? I was so worried about our difficulties that I almost missed the chance to see the blessing you've been to us today. In the weeks that follow, a friendship blossoms between the two families. Mr. Johnson becomes a constant presence in Sarah and her children's lives. He shows up for Sunday dinner, always bringing a bouquet of flowers from his garden for Sarah and small treats for the children. Grandpa Johnson, the twins shout every time he arrives, running to hug him. Mr. Johnson laughs, filling the house with his joy. Hey there, my explorers. Ready for another adventure story? He spends hours helping Emily with her history homework, telling stories that make the events in the books come to life. For the twins, he teaches old board games and simple magic tricks that leave them amazed. And for little Sophie, he always has a new lullaby or fairy tale to tell at bedtime. Sarah, in turn, includes Mr. Johnson in her family meals and helps him with small household chores. She teaches him how to use a smartphone to make video calls with his daughter who lives in another state, and together, they plan a small community garden in Mr. Johnson's backyard. Sarah, he says one day as they water the newly planted seedlings, "You and your children have brought color back into my life. I don't know how to thank you." Sarah smiles, gently squeezing Mr. Johnson's hand. "You've done the same for us, Mr. Johnson. Sometimes, all we need is someone to remind us of the good that exists in the world." This experience teaches everyone a valuable lesson. True wealth lies not in what we possess, but in the connections we create and the kindness we share. Sarah discovers that, even amid her own struggles, she has the power to make a difference in someone else's life. And so, through this casual encounter at the market, two lonely souls find comfort, support, and a new family, proving that compassion and generosity have the power to transform lives and create bonds that transcend age, circumstances, and personal challenges. You see, my dear listener, this story reminds us that we all have something to offer, regardless of our financial or personal situation. Empathy and willingness to help can create waves of positivity that extend far beyond our immediate actions. So, I ask you, when was the last time you reached out to help someone, even when you yourself were facing difficulties? Or when did you receive unexpected help from a stranger? Remember, by opening ourselves to unexpected connections and acting with kindness, we not only enrich the lives of others but also discover a deep satisfaction and purpose in our own journeys. May this story inspire you to look around more attentively, to see opportunities to make a difference in someone's life, and to remember that true wealth lies in the connections we create and the kindness we share. Who knows? Maybe today is the day you'll find your own Mr. Johnson, or be the Mr. Johnson in someone's life. The world is full of possibilities for small acts of kindness that can change everything. Thank you for listening and for sharing this moment with me. Until the next story, and remember, the magic of life often begins with a simple hello.